I honestly don't miss, you know, the sound of a big loud engine at all.
Would you ever build a gas truck again?
At this point, no. To be honest, I wouldn't. If you're building a custom gas truck or an electric truck that's custom, it's still just hot rodding. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, you're cutting stuff up, putting stuff in there that wasn't originally in there just to make the thing faster. And it's a ton of fun while you're doing it, because you're doing something that's new and kind of almost hasn't been done, you know, depending on the vehicle.
So you're like that forefront, like in the 30s when people were first throwing turbos on stuff. It's like that. Yeah, we're in that era.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been a long time, probably since then, that there's been really just that pure hot rodding, right? Like doing stuff that really hasn't been done. Like, just kind of get that sense that you're doing exactly what the guys used to do in the 30s. It's just electric. It's
so
a different
you found the new technology and you threw it in something old and made it work. We came down to Utah for a fun trip to Lagoon with the kids, and while we were down here, I wanted to come make a part 2 with Casey. If you haven't seen my other video, we looked at his 58 Apache, which is in the back. He's got a shop down here in Salt Lake, and he's been doing a ton of more builds, and he's been busy as ever. So let's look at what else he's got. We had, if you've seen as SEMA this year, you might have noticed this is a, what year?
1959.
This is a 59 Apache.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk through what we got on this one and what else he's been up to. So I see same Tesla drivetrain. This is from a Model S?
Model S, yeah.
Model S drivetrain?
Yeah.
All right, so what did it take to get this one running? What do we got in the back here?
Well, so this one's got a slightly different setup than my 58. So it's got the Tesla Model S large rear drive unit. This is the performance version. Okay. I've got the base in mind, so like 550 horsepower. This thing can peak up to like, I think it's 720, and that's max. And this one's got full air ride. Mine has full air ride. This one's got the LED lights here. There's usually a cover, so you can turn them on now, but typically they only come on when charging. Cool. This is kind of like a charge indicator, basically.
Does it show a different color when it's charged, or do anything different when it's charged?
No, it just does this as it's charging. Yeah,
okay.
And then when it's done, it shuts off.
Okay.
And then we've got a radiator back there, and that's for the cooling system for the inverter of the drive unit back here. So the drive unit has its own separate cooling loop. Underneath the panel on this corner, we've got the charger and DC to DC. It's a combined unit from StealthEV, and that's all packed in this corner. And
was the motor bought from StealthEV?
It was, yep. Yeah, so we picked that up from StealthEV. Matt gave us a great deal on that. You know, it's a great company, easy to get a hold of. They've got good customer service.
And now, are they owned by Hypercraft now?
They are now, yeah. So
were they when you bought the other stuff? You bought the other stuff from them, right?
No, that stuff came from EV West.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So that was I bought that in 2018. Mm-hmm. So I think at that point, I don't even know if Stealth had started or if they had just got started.
And then Hypercraft bought them, and that's a local company to you here. They're pretty close, right?
Yeah.
Is the StealthEV side of that company here in Utah too, or is that somewhere else?
No. So from what I understand, so Hypercraft is here in Provo, and they're manufacturing like new motors, and they're trying to do new batteries as well, which would be really cool. So they bought Stealth, and I think what they're doing is basically for research and development. They're kind of using that.
That's kind of for their DIY. They sell that kind of the StealthEV stuff to DIY type of people, right? And then the Hypercraft is for more commercial
I think so.
I
It
think.
seems like that's what they're gearing towards. So Stealth EV still does the Tesla motor stuff, and that's kind of their own thing. And then they're tied in with Hypercraft, I think, for more of the kind of fleet stuff that they're trying to do. But so they have a facility now in Carson, California as well. So Matt is moving up there, but then Stealth is staying in San Diego. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of how that works, but
So tell me about this box. This must be a high voltage junction box.
Yep, that's where all the magic happens. So in any of these vehicles, for the most part, I mean, not everybody uses your standard junction box like that.
Yeah.
I always have. It just kind of makes it simple for me, and because of where it sits in relation to the motor, everything's just kind of close and easy, and for these trucks, it works out great.
So are there main contactors in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a main negative contactor, a main positive contactor, and then because this thing has air conditioning, it's got a Tesla Model S AC compressor,
Oh, wow.
which is also 400 volts. And that needs its own pre-charge circuit as well, just like the motor does. So there's actually three big contactors.
So there's pre-charge relays as well with the contactors.
Yeah.
Okay, so pre-charger, and that's a separate pre-charge circuit for the air conditioner.
Correct.
And that air conditioner, what did you have to do to control that? Is that from the same controller that runs the motor and everything, or?
No, so that's a little bit different. So with this truck, Vintage Air, which is a standard classic truck or classic car, resto mod air conditioning setup that you can buy for these. I've basically wired it so that the trinary switch works just like it would in a normal car. When you turn on the AC just on the controllers for the Vintage Air system, the 12 volt triggers the compressor to turn on. So basically how it works is you turn the truck on and the compressor gets 400 volts to it after it goes through its pre-charge. So it's ready to go at any point. Once you hit the AC button on the controller, then that's going to trigger the compressor to then turn on.
It has a 12 volt input to say turn on.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I'm running a PWM controller for the duty cycle on it as well. So I'll have to manually kind of adjust that. Like it's not going to adjust
What's that
based on
PWM from? Is that an aftermarket? Something
Yeah, it's just a little aftermarket controller.
Oh, but that's for the 12 volt. It's a 12 volt PWM.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the circuit telling it to turn on.
Exactly.
And that'll actually slow the compressor up.
It's going to control the speed of the compressor.
Wow.
Yep.
Cool.
So
okay.
So yeah, rather than being controlled by RPM, it's just
That's
it's kind of
impressive.
manual.
Where'd you learn how to run all that? Just digging the forums, or?
Digging on forums, looking online, and then basic knowledge from just car stuff as well.
Cool.
So.
All right, and you have a PWM running your coolant pumps too, right?
No. So those are just on. I just have them on full blast the whole time.
What brand of pumps do you have?
Tesla.
They're from Tesla.
Yes, Tesla.
Okay, cool. And there's an oil pump in this unit, right? Is that run from the controller?
No, so the oil pump is on the inside, and it just runs on its own. I don't think the controller has anything
You
to
don't
do
mess
with
with
it.
it? All right.
So,
cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of the back half of it back here.
Quickly, let's see some of the cool features in the back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just
so
these are kind of awesome.
Yeah, so we have this little storage compartment here. So this is kind of just obviously dry storage. It's got a couple USB chargers in here for like phone or electric skateboard or whatever it is that you want to store in here and you need to charge.
And this has a plexiglass right through to see the motor, which is
so it's got a little look-through window so you can see the motor. It's just kind of like just a little extra touch, It helps bring the light in there as well, so it's not so dark in there. And then you can close that guy up.
And these, if you lock your bed up, these are all safe, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this open?
No, so they're on like an electric popper lock basically. So with that, there's these little buttons over here.
Okay.
So we don't want to tell too many people about, but inside of there.
Keep some secret buttons.
Yeah. So then this is a wet storage. The guy that I'm building the truck for, he lives in Southern California. He surfs. He wanted to have, I thought it would be nice for him to have a place to put his wet clothes.
So is it just a custom thing you threw in? And you haven't shown him this stuff?
He knows,
seen that?
Yeah, he knows about the compartments. He knows about all this stuff. There's a couple little touches that I've added that he doesn't know about yet. Nothing big, but just like some personalization stuff that I wanted to do for him.
Cool. And then this is black walnut?
Yeah, so custom cut black walnut. So it's not like a bed kit or anything like that. I just bought planks. I had them milled down so that we could put in these trim pieces nice and flush and just keep everything flat inside the bed. So it's custom cut black walnut, and then each one of these strips is custom cut, drilled, and then it also has a directional grain just like the rest of the truck as well. So with the matte clear coat on it, same as the wood.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thanks.
All right, let's look at the interior real quick.
Sure. Yeah. So let's see.
So is this some custom machining just on the steering wheel column?
No, so that's just it was a raw steel I did it steering column. It came with the grain on it, so then I just went ahead and put the same matte clear coat that I have on the rest of the truck on it. And then this is just the adapter for the steering wheel, which is actually just a grained aluminum.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily match the steel itself, but it's close. And there's a few other aluminum pieces in there as well.
This is a touch screen. Is that an iPad? Controller then?
Yep. So this runs the EV controls, the T2C. So we go EV controls. That pops up. So in here you've got RPMs, speedometer in the middle, kilowatt. You've got a bunch of power adjustments in it. But yeah, so that's just the iPad, mini iPad.
Do you have a forward, neutral, reverse button as well, or do you have to do it on the dash?
I don't. It's just on the dash.
But you can wire a physical button to the EV controls.
Correct. Yeah, they've got analog push button outputs for them as well. So they just take a momentary switch and you're off. So that might be something we do in the future on this. I was thinking about that actually the other day. The iPad's being charged constantly while it's in here. You can turn the charging system off on it. But there shouldn't be a reason why you couldn't use it. But you might want to do a backup kind of hardwire.
This isn't where you charge, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's look inside first. So what are those other buttons next to the column?
Okay, so down here you can see this little panel that I've made. So it's got the air ride controller on there, the E-level for the AccuAir system that's in here. The two little push buttons there, the top one is parking brake on, the bottom one is parking brake off. So I made a custom electric parking brake in here.
Is it uses a Tesla's parking brake, or is it something separate?
No, it just pulls the original parking brake cable for the rear suspension that's used in here. So it's just essentially it's an electric actuator with a little controller on there, basically.
Where'd the seat come from?
So the seat we actually had done by Seems Impossible Custom Interiors here. Cody, who owns it, does great work. He used to work over at Kindig's place for a long time doing the interiors for his stuff, and has gone out on his own. And I was lucky enough to get him to say yes to do this, and he did an amazing job.
Yeah. And he did the ceiling too.
Yeah. So he did the the headliner in there. The seat's all leather. It's got the Alcantara perforated leather on the actual seat itself. And let's see, because I need to throw this on it's on a constant hot circuit, and I've got to just switch it over. But all right, so so it has this perforated gray Alcantara leather here, and the reason it's perforated is if you look in here on the armrest in the middle, it's got fan controls for the seat. So as you turn that on, the air blows up through these and blows through the back of the seat as well. So in the summertime, if you're going somewhere that you don't want to be sweaty when you get there, I mean, it's got air conditioning as it is, but this is definitely going to help keep your back cool. And depending on where you're living, that would be something you really want to have, especially if you're in Arizona, New Mexico, or something like that. So Cody put the seat together for us, put the fans in there, basically got everything wired up in it. I can't really take credit for that. It also has, in that same armrest, if you notice the pad at the back, that is a wireless phone charger. So you set your phone on there and it starts charging. Cool. There you go. So.
All right, well, may I try this?
Oh yeah.
Does it take a push or a twist?
No, so it just pulls off. It's almost like a suction. So I'll show you why, how that works. But so it's a billet aluminum charge port right where the old gas filler was. Something I've always wanted to do. The typical kind of ports that you get don't really fit that well in there, but this one fit almost perfectly. And to be honest, the cab itself, we have a custom steering wheel in here. So this is actually the horn button from the original steering wheel.
Okay.
Yeah. So So I had to take out all of the original gas filler stuff, and this is kind of the opening, just the hole without the gasket that goes around it. So I had to make it as big as possible, and this thing just happened to fit just about perfectly in that space and cover this thing up. The only thing I didn't necessarily like is kind of how far it stuck out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't bother me anymore. Like it kind of just looks like it should be. So, but that's it. And then you can see on the inside of the horn button, it's got this little cap.
Rubber.
Yeah, it's the orange rubber cap that originally came with that. Not overly attractive, but it does a really good job of sealing it with almost like a suction seal. So, I haven't had any. There's no worry about that thing coming off at speed or anything. It's on there pretty good.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, to the front.
Yeah.
What do we have under the hood?
Well, we've got your typical so in the front, we've got a custom battery box in the middle there. That holds 10 of the 16 Tesla Model S modules in this one. So this truck has a full 85 kilowatt hour Tesla pack in it.
So there's 10 in here, so you're hiding six somewhere?
Yeah, so there's 6 in the chassis underneath the cab.
Wow, okay.
And with these trucks, that's typically how I like to do it. They've got a lot of room underneath the cab. We split this one 10 and 6 because of the Orion 2 BMS, because of fusing and cell groups.
You can't fuse between certain spots of the cell taps, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So the harness,
because it'll fry the BMS if something happens.
Yeah, the harnesses that come with this, they're in the 36 cell group basically, and so we went ahead and put 6, which is the first 36 in the group or in the whole pack, and then we put the other 10 modules up here. So
did you use Orion for the other truck?
No, so that one's actually got the lithium BMS in it.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on using an Orion versus the dilithium? How hard they were and how their features and stuff? Yeah,
so the lithium design is definitely an easier one to start with, for sure. Less function as far as controlling things within the vehicle. That being said, they have a lot of things that you can add to the dilithium now.
Did you use the touchscreen with theirs?
Not for mine, no. Mine was so basic. I do have the touchscreen, and I was going to install it recently. But I baby that thing, so it's more kind of set up like a race car, I guess, in a way. Every time I charge it or drive it, I plug my computer into it, get into the BMS, check all my cells, do the math on how high or low I can be, charge it up to that point. Like I take care of it like that. It's a little more involved than just
the dilithium's been pretty good for it. It's worked well. You haven't had any issues.
Yeah, no, it's been fine.
So what's Orion different from? It just has a little more controllable. Or?
Yeah, basically, it's got outputs and inputs on it. So the dilithium design doesn't have anything. It's got a couple things that you can control with it, but this thing's there's 4 multi-purpose outputs that will run relays. So
cooling and
so I have it so that the battery pump clicks on as soon as you turn the key on. So that's one of the outputs on there. The fan in the front. So if the batteries get to a certain temperature, then the front fan will click on, and the BMS controls that as well.
No, is that stuff you figured out on your own, or you have to get help for that kind of stuff to program it?
No, it's easy to figure out on your own. So once you get into the actual programming of the BMS, so you connect with your computer, you get in there, you can go through a whole bunch of different settings. Included in those settings are the outputs, and you can use them for all sorts of different things. It can be a temperature control deal, it can be a cell voltage control deal, but they kind of leave it up to you as to what you use it for, and then you just go through and set your parameters, and that's it.
And then to tap into the Tesla batteries, was it hard to get to the cells in the Tesla's batteries?
No, not really. They all have the Stealth EV.
Stealth have their own aftermarket connectors to them.
They
Does the one on the table over there have that?
Yeah.
Let's look at that real quick.
So this is these are Volt. Same thing.
So
same
Revolt, that's the company that sells the Tesla motors that are turned 180 to drive like a traditional small block would be, right?
Yeah, they.
Is that what
no, so that.
Or is that a different company?
Yeah, that's a different one. So that is Revolt systems. There's a few revolts.
So amp revolt and revolt systems are different. Okay.
Yeah. So amp revolt, there's two that are similar, and I should know this, but I believe that is Brandon in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Okay. He's been around for a while. He does a lot of classic Volvos and a lot of classic European vehicles, and does awesome work. They make battery boxes as well, and they've got their own BMS boards there.
So he just cut tape and stuff and took the Tesla board off and wired on this where you have your own plugs, right? You sell tabs here.
So let me see.
Okay.
I think
and then the BMS plugs, the Orion probably comes with those clips, or you have to put on your own plug and to fit there.
So the Orion, you can use the Orion for whichever plug you do, basically. So you just get the plug that fits into this here, and then the correct pins to go in it. You wire the Orion BMS to have 6 cells, and that's it. So each group in an Orion has 12, so it works perfectly for 2 modules.
So this has 16 of these in there.
Yep.
Okay, and these are 5.3 kilowatt each.
Yeah.
How much do they weigh?
About 50 pounds.
50 pounds each? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So cool. This is actually an older version, so it's got the plastic sides on there. Mm-hmm. The newer ones have aluminum blades on them.
And these are like 24-ish volts each, right? So you would need at least you have to have a bunch of them.
You got to have
4 for driving a Tesla.
14 is the minimum.
14 is the minimum.
Yeah,
Unless so Hyper 9 though, how many?
Hyper 9 you just need 6. So, because the Hyper 9, I believe the voltage on that's 144 nominal. Mm-hmm. So if you had 6, you'd be, that's right, 144.
You could do 7 probably.
You can do 7, yeah, you absolutely can do 7.
But there's a lower voltage Hyper 9, right?
There is,
120
yeah.
version, so you could do that too and get 5.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, totally.
Nice, well, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what they look like. There's 16 of them in there. The boards are real simple. You can actually see on the front here, it tells you the cell group. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 1 through 6 here. These are your thermistors, which is just going to give you the temperature of the battery, or the coolant flowing through the battery.
Where's the coolant taps?
On the other end. So these are the cooling lines here. So the the one that's up higher is out. The one that's lower is in. And that's it.
Easy.
Yeah. So and then these are the actual, you see there's tiny little tubes inside of these ribbons here, and they just weave their way in between each cell and keep them cool just by running the coolant in between them.
Cool. So tell us a short summarized version of your horror story about buying these from people who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
What should people look out for when they're using these?
Well, it's tough. You really want to. I had a customer. I think is kind of what you're referring to. So I had a customer who insisted on buying his own modules to try and save money for this. I warned him, just make sure you know where they're coming from. There's a lot of guys online. I don't want to say what website, but a seller's website. There's a few of them out there.
And you can get them from eBay from scrap. Just buy a bunch from eBay, right?
That's the seller's website.
That's the one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
eBay's right.
Yeah.
That's an open mention. They're pretty big.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of guys on eBay selling them. You just have to be careful where they're coming from, because people do know that there's an opportunity to pull these and make some money on them. Yeah. I had a guy who was trying to save money, got them from the wrong person. And they showed up, they looked fine on the top, and as soon as we started digging them out, we realized that these guys had, cut the pallet as they were stacking them in there. They didn't put these caps on the cooling lines.
So it didn't have this plastic cover on it either?
Oh, it had the plastic covers on them, yeah.
Okay, so the covers are on them,
but the cooling lines are actually hard. You can think they're drained, and there's coolant in there. I mean, those hoses are tiny.
Hard to get coolant out of it, probably.
Yes,
it's all sitting there unless you air blew them all out.
Yep, and with that you have to be careful, because there's only a certain PSI that those hoses can handle. So they showed up, they looked okay. We started digging them in, and within basically the second layer, we were getting sawdust, and we noticed that there was also coolant dripping out of a few of them. By the time we got to the very last ones, they basically had pools of coolant sitting on top of them. So I had to notify my customer at that point, like he had 6, out of 16 modules, he had 6 bad ones. And these things run, they're close to $1,000 a piece, so that's a big loss. Yeah. So in trying to save money, he actually ended up spending more money.
And you don't really want to mix and match very often. You can, right? But it's kind of risky, because they don't discharge the same if they're...
Yeah, it depends on how many cycles they've had. I mean, not every battery is at the same strength. So you can mix and match. You just have to make sure they're balanced before you put them in there, basically. So you want them as close to the voltage as possible on all of them. And then you need to be able to run them down and then charge them back up, and then do that twice, maybe even 3 times before you really see where each cell's going to be sitting, basically. And at that point, I mean, if you really want to do it right, you'd pull the batteries and you'd balance them again and then put them back in. So, but that's pretty extensive. A lot of times after the first balancing, you put them in, they're not that far off from each other. But you are correct. If one of those is out of a different vehicle, it might have been charged more, ran more. It might just be a weaker cell, and it might not stay up with the rest of them.
And then it'll work your BMS pretty hard.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah, and you'll lose range. You know, you won't be able to accelerate.
You're as good as your weakest battery, probably, right?
Yep,
right.
exactly.
Cool. Well, let's check out some of the other projects and see what else you're doing. Cool. So what else do we have going on in your shop? You've had a few customer projects. You did a Ford build of some kind. Was it a truck or what?
Yeah. So 1956 Ford F100. Cool. That was for a customer in London.
Wow.
Yeah.
They shipped it.
Yep. So
wow.
yeah, I haven't released any photos of that yet.
Yeah.
It was it came in after this truck, to be completely honest. And so I had to keep the shop doors open. This guy was hounding me to do a build, and then I got to the point where I was trying to do both trucks at once. Ended up hiring a fabricator to come in and help with that. And so with my guidance, you know, we were able to kind of get that one out the door and keep him happy while this one was still being worked on in the background. So.
Okay. And so real quick while we're on the topic, so for people who want to contact you for a build, what would you tell them right now?
Well, so right now we're trying to finish this off. I get asked all the time, can you do a build? And right now I'm just telling people that I don't have any openings immediately. I'm trying to clear the shop out, and then once I get that done, I'll be able to take on another build. So.
But you could have probably enough projects to keep you busy as long as you wanted to.
Yeah, if I wanted to take on a whole bunch of customer builds and then hire a couple of guys to come in and start doing that stuff, I mean, we could definitely ramp things up. But it's really hard to know. It's hard to gauge exactly how these things are how long they're going to take to build. Basically, every vehicle you do, if it's not one that you've done before, it's like starting
all new.
over. Yeah,
new engineer. You got to engineer it all.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes it goes fast, and sometimes it doesn't. That's just how it is.
And these are premium. I mean, this is a nice restored, not resto modded car. So it's people who are doing DIY cheap stuff. This is not that.
This was not. Yeah, no, this is definitely not that version. I'm truly eager to get back to doing a very basic build.
More rugged.
Yeah, something that's
like your first one over here.
Yeah, exactly. Something that it's easy to explain, to people what all it went into it, and then maybe even easy to explain if there's somebody out there that wants to do it at home. It's a lot easier to explain the components and the basics of this than this. Yeah. So I think for guys out there who are kind of eager or interested in this. Keeping it simple, I think, is kind of the key to kind of get people to get into it.
Especially for their first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, if you can make it seem and feel, and I guess not seem easy, but, it's just going to be easier for guys to wrap their heads around.
And so one of the most interesting things from our last video, and I think that I get some of the funnest reactions, is I asked you, would you ever do a gas build again?
Yeah.
And you said no.
Yeah.
And people went, what? And one of the reasons was this is easier than a gas build and more fun, right? To drive. By far more fun to drive. Yeah,
it actually, I mean, it seems very complex when you're first getting into it. The reality is, though, between that controller and that motor, there's 16 wires. Maybe a couple more. You got chargers and things like that, but it's fairly basic once you figure it out. And it does everything I want. It's got more torque in it than any gas engine I've ever had, in anything, including LSs or whatever. There's no wind up, there's no kick down. It puts you back in your seat, puts butterflies in your stomach, does all that stuff.
Oh yeah, you said you were smiling for a month. And
yeah, it was amazing. It was like, I mean, it's even for guys who have been in fast cars, and when you get in the electric vehicles and you feel how quick they accelerate, it's just they're incomparable to a gas vehicle. For me, anyway. I haven't been in, a supercar or something like that, but But yeah, it's great. I don't have any complaints. You know, the noise is obviously the number one complaint for most car guys. But
you like the noise of this one with the open bed. It's got a cool jet sound, right?
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I mean, just the joy you get of the acceleration, you forget about the noise part of it. It doesn't matter anymore, really.
Yeah, I think most people who once they try it, they get over that pretty quick.
Yeah.
But you're branching out now. What's in the Land Rover here?
Yeah, so the Land Rover is...
this is not Tesla.
No, so this is just a Hyper 9 motor. You see these a lot in Volkswagen conversions especially. It's a smaller motor. It runs on 144 volts. It'll give you about 120 horsepower.
And it's pretty simple build too, right?
Yeah.
It's air cooled.
Yep.
And you can buy commercial adapter plates, right?
Yep.
But they're not always easy to get in stock, right?
No, they're not. Yeah.
So one of the warnings for people watching, I've talked about ConvertingEV before. The adapter plates, they're one of the only companies that sells adapter plates. EV West sells their adapter plate.
Yep.
And Casey here has been waiting for a very long time for an adapter plate, and everyone else we hear is waiting like a year for adapter plates. So they're not really easy to come by.
Yeah.
So you may want to set up some other sources and custom machining to get that to work, right? You had to have, which company did your adapter plate?
Yeah, so I got lucky. So you know these guys, they're in Idaho. Conductive Classics. Conductive Classics? Yes.
I think so,
yeah. Right?
Yeah, they're in Boise, right?
Yeah, they're in Boise.
They've got some really cool builds to them.
Yes, they have the Galaxy, the four-door Ford Galaxy. I think it's a 64. They also did a 59 Apache with this motor in it.
Yeah, that was the blue one.
Yeah, which recently sold at auction.
Awesome.
And so somebody else is getting to enjoy that. But yeah, they luckily we've stayed in contact. We met, going to shows last summer, and they had made one for themselves. And I told them the predicament that I was in. They're like, send us some measurements and we'll get one made. And a few weeks later they had it done, and I said a few weeks. Like it literally showed up in a few weeks.
Cool.
Yeah, so they really helped me out. They're going to start selling them as well. So I think that issue should come to a halt.
I think this is a growing hobby.
Yeah,
there's people who do adapters for LS and all kinds of motor. The skill is there. You just gotta get those guys to catch on, right?
Yeah, you really it's basic measurements and machinists basically.
Yeah. So this is air cooled. It's the torque wise. It'll do like what size of vehicle? It's like a 4-cylinder replacement.
It's probably closer to a 6-cylinder.
6-cylinder.
Yeah. It's got pretty good torque in it. I took a ride in the 59 Apache, the conductive build. And I was surprised, I'll be honest. I was not a fan of the Hyper 9. I'm still not, it's a smaller motor. I enjoy spinning the wheels. This will do it with some vehicles. There's nothing wrong with these. It's an awesome conversion for sure.
It looks cool. It's a good size. And fits in anything, right? They're Volkswagen Bugs.
Yeah, exactly. So. They're a good motor, but they do have good torque in them.
And you're going to the stock transmission?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one of the Tesla. That's really hard to do, right? But with these, you can go to stock transmission, so that simplifies the build quite a bit for some cars.
It does.
You don't need to do all the suspension fab what you've been doing.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a lot easier. This is a kind of more of a plug and play type of deal. With this one, the customer really wanted to retain the ability to shift gears.
And that's 4-wheel drive, probably.
Yep. 4-wheel drive. So it's going to go right into transmission. The gearbox is still there. The 4-wheel drive will still work. Clutch 2. Yep.
Which you don't have to do, but it's nice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to do it, it's definitely a nice way to do it. So everything will feel the same on the vehicle. It just won't make noise.
Well, that'll be really cool. What year is this one?
This is a... I should know this off the top of my head. 76.
76.
Yeah.
It looks cool. These are really popular conversions, especially in Europe, right? This is...
there's
Tesla kits for these. There's a lot of electric for these. They do often leaf motor swaps in these. Is really common.
So you can do a Tesla motor in these things as well. You can get rid of the transmission, the gearbox. You can turn it sideways. For these a reverse oil pump because you have to run it in reverse technically. But no shifting. But you'd be able to. You can adjust the power on those as well.
Yeah, someone sells a kit for that, right? For these, and a guy, do you know Bill Byer? Bill Byer, have you heard or seen him? He did a Jeep like that.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did that, and you have to buy the company in Europe. think Zero EV sells it too. There in Europe, you have to buy that to re-gear the transmission, right? Because you're going to the differential gearing plus the Tesla gearing.
Yes. Yeah. So for this, we were looking at doing. It was a large drive unit. It would have been a reverse oil pump and a gear reduction for it as well. So it's like 9.1 typically, and I think took it down half. So
so cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, it's a pretty humble little shop. You got you got a lot of projects. You're really busy.
Yeah.
But it's really fun to see what you're up to. So
Thanks.
We'll check back in on you and me in a little while or so and see what else you're doing next time we're down here in Salt Lake.
Awesome.
So, thank you.
Yeah. Always a pleasure.